Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. And Joyce, we have a jam-packed show today.
Did something happen this week?
So much. We saw Gladiator II. So we're going to talk about that later. You got to stay tuned for our hot Gladiator takes.
Or they could just skip ahead?
Uh, and then we're going to talk about Conclave too, which is finally out in theaters. Real people can see the movie of the year for Manhasset theater goers. That was how I viewed it when I saw it in Telluride.
I mean, my friend's dad is very excited for it.
But we're going to start with some news, Joyce. There was a lot of news this week. I guess the biggest one was that Dune Part 2 on Monday, Warner Brothers put up their FYC site, not listed among the categories, was best score for Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, their FYC site launched, also not on there, juror number two. But anyway, Dune, yeah, it wasn't there. So obviously people freaked out all over film Twitter on Monday.
Is it
And
ineligible?
that was the question because Hans, you know, took a lot of the Dune 1 score,
Hmm.
incorporated, remixed it
Yes.
for Dune 2. And then yesterday, Tuesday, we're recording on Wednesday, confirmation from our
Ineligible.
pals at Variety that it's ineligible because he used too much of the first one.
I believe the threshold is about 20% of existing
Hmm.
music or
Yeah.
previously used music for a sequel gets it disqualified. So now Dune Part 2, which many people had, I think it was top three in the odds. It wasn't number one, but most people had it either one, two, or three, is now not eligible. So good night delights for Dune.
But the timing was also great for not Dune, but The Brutalist yesterday, because yesterday the trailer dropped, and the score was a huge star of the trailer, and that score is incredible. So it was like just, people finally heard the score, saw the trailer, and then Dune is out of score, so it's like The Brutalist can win this now.
Another Daniel Blumberg score,
Yes.
a fantastic score. Absolutely, like immediately when you're watching it, you're like, this is awesome.
Yes.
And now it's another potential win for the Brutalist, which I think could really start steamrolling wins. That was my other thing with this.
With the trailer?
With the trailer and with Dune, like I'm like we're thinking like
Yeah.
what is Brutalist going to win? It could win like I mean like a lot.
I mean,
It could
I
actually
I
win.
always thought it was gonna win score anyway, even though as a goof, I had Conclave in first just because that's the funniest score of the year.
But
But it's not like I had Dune in first and like now Dune is gone. But I did put Brutalist in first. But Conclave number one in my heart.
I actually think I might have Conclave number one. Let me look. But that's the top two. Conclave is number one right now.
Yeah, Volker Bertelmann
Yes, a former winner for doing the one
for
note.
three notes.
Oh,
Three
three
notes.
notes, excuse me. How dare I? Actually,
Yeah.
I have the Brutalist in first too, because it fucking rips. So the Brutalist and Conclave are one, two. The rest of that category now is Amelia Perez in third. I don't even have it in my picks.
I don't have it either.
Wild Robot in fourth. And then Saturday Night has kind of stepped into the void left by Dune Part 2 in the odds.
Well, I already had Saturday night in, and as you know, I had the room next door.
I actually added the room next door.
Wow, you're such a copycat.
We'll talk about this, I guess, later. Or we can talk about this in the mailbag. But I was at the Montclair Film Festival over the weekend, Joyce, and
You already told me what you did.
on a panel with, among others, very luminaries in the industry like Katie Rich and Chris Murphy from Vanity Fair. But then Tom Bernard from Sony Pictures Classics was there as part of it, and it was just illuminating talking to someone with such experience as Tom Bernard.
So again, guys, once again, if you want Chris to hope dig your fave, if you're a studio head out there and you want Chris to hope dig your fave, your pony,
Ring me
just
up.
be the last one to talk to him before January 17th.
I'll just say this. I after speaking to him, I have taken the room next door a lot more seriously. But I specifically asked him about the score category because I was like, you have Alberto Iglesias, who's obviously a past nominee and was recently nominated for a Sony Classics movie, Parallel Mothers. And I was like, does that make it a lot easier? Because he was saying like the hardest thing, this is nothing that you're gonna be surprised by, Joyce, but in case maybe a listener is, he was like, the hardest thing is just getting people to see the movie. And like that is what his goal is to get mobilize people to see the movie, whether through the Academy screener site or in screenings. And he was like, it does have, and then getting the branches to like kind of like pay attention. And he was like, the score branch is very finicky, which we also know, but he was like, it does very much help to have someone they're familiar with in there. And so he was like, so I was like, and I was like, yes, yes, and so I was like, I think I'm gonna put him in. So I put Room Next Door in when Dune was exiled.
Yeah, that's not breaking news, not brand new information, Duckiff. And we also know that SPC is really good at
They
doing
are.
that, you
We'll talk
know?
about this later because I want to talk about like I guess I was like trying to think of how to play those SPC movies. But anyway, I think Saturday Night, like you said, another past winner, John Baptiste. I think most on film Twitter, Joyce, who are very upset about the Dune exclusion, were like, "This is a great news for also former past winners, including with John Baptiste, excuse me, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for challengers."
Yeah, I considered replacing Dune with Challengers. I did not. I did your fave One Wild Robot, which I'm also not confident in because it's also animated, and I think that goes to also what a little bit what Tom said to you, just like getting people. I mean, I think people will see the movie, but like getting them to take an animated film seriously, and we've seen how animated film scores have gotten burned recently. So
Spider Verse being one.
yeah, and Boy and the Heron, you know.
I
So
I feel like I'm trying to with that one, and we had an email about this, I think, last week in our mailbag episode, or maybe a couple weeks ago. But in terms of like weighing the animation bias versus like Chris Bowers, I feel like being ascendant in that group, right? Like I feel like he is a composer that people are like
I
in
feel
that
like
group.
that. I mean, if you're choosing between that and Challengers, I think Challengers score is a film Twitter fave. I'm not really into it, as you know. Like I'm just not into that type of music. Like I understand why people like it, but I also don't feel like that branches into electronic music either. So I don't know.
I I really like that score. I guess if I was going to criticize it, I would say it's awfully repetitive.
Yes,
And in terms of like the meat, what like again, I don't think people do this, but like we do it. I know you said like we saw Gladiator, you came home and listened to the Gladiator score,
the first one, yeah,
the
Hans
first
Zimmer.
one, Hansa score, and I was like, I do that too. And I was like, with challengers, I'm like not one I'm like really like excited to listen to. But One Wild Robot, I was like listening to the whole thing. So I don't know if people actually do that, and I think it is clubby in the branch. And obviously, Reznor and Ross have had success, but they've had a lot of great scores over the last several years,
That
but
they
they did not
miss.
get in.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think it's different. So I don't know. So I didn't put it in, but I did put The Room Next Door in with Dune exiled.
Um,
You
yeah.
you you mentioned Brutalist, so that was the other news this week was that it's a trailer came out. Fantastic trailer.
The trailer and the poster. Um, yeah, I saw a lot of comments about because the poster came out first. And it's all angular, the text and everything. And I saw several comments be like, I'm not into this. I'm like, well, then you're not gonna like the credits or like anything,
I,
any graphic design in the movie. And then the trailer was literally just that's what the credits are like in the movie with the scroll.
I I feel like again we've talked about this. I think the perception this year of these movies, like The Brutalist, and I would say September 5, is different from the reality. And I think like people are
Mhm.
excited about The Brutalist, but I do think there's like a lot of like uh maybe anti-dicting it because it's like going to be too long or
Yes.
boring or not. And it's like
Yeah, I've
we
seen a lot of people think, not a lot, but I think people think it's going to be like Power of the Dog, and it's not like the movie itself is not like Power of the Dog at all. Maybe it
no.
doesn't win, maybe it just wins director. I don't think that's going to be the case, but if you're just comparing apple to apples as films, like it's not uh cold in quotes like Power of the Dog was.
You know I love Anora. Favorite movie of the year. Number one with the bullet. Of all the movies right now that I think are out there, the I have Amelia Present first my pick, so I have The Brutalist in second, and I think it's very easy to imagine The Brutalist just winning Best Picture to me.
Yeah,
So I think like the takes will lessen as people maybe see the movie.
yes. And again, it's the same about getting people to see the movie in spite of its runtime in this case.
Yes. I will be curious to see how people experience the movie when it gets to like the Academy portal and just in screeners in general. I think this is one movie where, and we talked about like last year with Flower Moon, it was like, this is a 3 hour movie. Thelma Shoemaker's out there being like, no intermission, fuck off, sit there and watch this. And I think people at home are like probably like struggling through it, I would say, generously. This movie, I really think you could do if you were like so inclined and you're an Academy member who's like, I'm not going to go out to see it. I don't want to go to the theater. I'll watch it when it's at home. You could watch this over 2 days and not lose anything because I do think they almost are like two separate movies. I don't think that Brady Corbet would love to hear that, but I do think you could do it. And I think that will help it too in terms of like its length.
Yeah, and like I said, once the intermission comes, you want to see the second half. I don't think you want to check out completely.
No, the intermission, the way the first part ends is awesome.
Like you're
And I
like on
think
a high, and
so
then
I
you're like let's fast forward through these 15
yeah.
minutes.
So I think it'll play really well. I guess we'll see. Other news this week, Joyce, was we and talked about this too. We're like trendsetters here. But the Golden Globes, it looks like Mubi will submit The Substance in a musical comedy.
Yes.
Great decision.
A dark satire, completely fitting, but I know people it stands, Demi stands too, upset that they took this route because it's probably not strategic if you're thinking about a win, because she would face off against Carla Sofia Gascon and Mikey Madison at the Globes in that category. And she's like, I mean, at this point, you'd probably say she's at best third, you know? Whereas, like, if they had gone drama, I know for sure people would have predicted her to win.
Okay. I never had her winning, so I guess I didn't think of it that way, but I do have
I
her
mean, like, I
third,
had her in
obviously.
drama, but I know people were there definitely would have been more people predicting her to win the Globe in drama than now that she's in comedy, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I have her in third place in comedy. I guess I looked at it like I think this is better for the movie overall because
Yes, that's why I think they did it too.
I think the movie will get in now in comedy as a movie. And I think for this kind of movie, and for her specifically, the visibility of the movie is only going to help her. So if she's just a lone nominee in drama, which was very likely, right? I mean, like, unless the Corley Farajay could get in, I think for director, I think we both have her. But like, if let's say she doesn't or whatever, I think there's actually more power to the movie being a comedy, a musical comedy nominee with her than there was without her. You know what I mean? So I think that'll help as this movie continues to like make money at the box office. People are remain excited by it. They're not turned off by the gore because I think it is so silly and the body horror. I don't know. I think this is like a real thing. I don't think it's just film Twitter. I do think it is the type of movie that could like defy expectations and go further than people think with the Oscars. I guess we'll see.
No, it's another movie you just have to get people to watch.
Right.
But no, I think it's the strategy is about the health of the film overall. It's not just about getting Demi on stage and getting her the win and a speech. So she probably won't win the Globe, but I think the substance can get into picture now at the Globes. And then that's stuff you can use in the marketing. I mean, I already had Margaret Qualley in supporting before to switch anyway, because it doesn't matter because there's no genres there. And yeah, like maybe it could get screenplay too, or director for Corley. So that's all stuff they can use to promote the movie and use in FYC materials, right? It's always like Best Picture nominee, and then in tiny print, it's like comedy musical that no one can see. But it doesn't matter because everyone sees Best Picture.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I think so it's about like it's a team move
I think it is.
for them to move. Yeah,
And
instead
I
of
think
just
that
like focusing on Demi.
and I think that's the smart to me, I think that's the smart play. And I think that's I totally understand the strategy. That movie I've been now like so I had Coralie in for director, but I've since changed her out. And I'm trying to figure out where I think I could get it in. I still don't have I think that best actress race is still very uh flexible. So there is room, but I don't know if I'll put her in. I also was like maybe original screenplay is where this gets in for Coralie instead of director. But I don't know where if there's room there because there's a lot of movies in there too.
I mean, too bad it's not adapted.
If it was adapted, I might have it in number two or one. I did put in. You'll be having to hear this. Not. I did put in Marianne Jean Baptiste for Hard Truths. I took out
Yeah,
Saoirse.
such a copycat.
Here was the rationale for that. Uh, we've talked everything we talked about when we talked about putting her in the passion there or whatever. And I do think that like the issue I think with Saoirse is that movie is out, but I don't know if you would know it.
Um, Saoirse Stans know it.
And the other thing is, again, talking to Tom Bernard, I was like, man, they have so many.
Tom Bernard's Impact.
Well, here was the thing. They have so many options. I don't know actually which one to pick. He was very high on Room Next Door and was like, Tilda is undeniable. And then I was talking to or I saw another pundit writing, and I was like, and they were like, oh, Tilda is undeniable. I'm like, she's very good in the movie. We saw it in your film festival. But I'm like, does she like to get that last spot? I feel like you just need that has, to me at least, maybe this is wrong, but I'm like, it kind of needs it needs to be like the passion pick will get that last spot. And so I'm like, if you have Saoirse, Tilda with Julianne Moore like in the same category against Tilda and like Fernanda Montenegro, I'm sorry, Fernanda Torres, right? Um, I don't know how you pick which one of those will pop for Sony. So I'm like, I think Marianne G. Baptiste could get in. That was basically it.
I would also say Marianne has the most passion out of all those you just mentioned.
Yes. So that was why I
Like
switched.
she should be winning. And I don't think she will, but she should be.
I Let me ask you this: when she wins I
When
think
she wins like New York Film Critics
she will
Circle,
win your Film Critics Circle, and then it's going to be like, oh, like I guess we'll see like at the Gotham Awards. I think they announced next week. Is that right? Or soon they're announcing.
allegedly.
So we'll see what they kind of end up with.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
there's like
so anyway, I went with Mary and Jean Baptiste, which I was like, Joyce is going to say I'm copying her, but that was so still not Demi Moore. And then for screenplay, I have original screenplay. I might put The Substance in. I think in that last spot. I don't know. Right now I have Baby Girl in the last spot.
Oh, you went with Baby Girl.
Yeah, I did because I was like, I have Nicole in, and I just keep hearing really good things about Baby Girl, one of the few movies you haven't seen. And I think Saturday Night is not going to be it because it's just not going anywhere. And I don't know about Hard Truths, which I think could also make it in, obviously. But I want Baby Girl, so I guess we'll see if I want to put The Substance in. But yeah, should we talk about Conclave?
Out on Friday.
Man, what a silly movie.
One of the silliest, and that's complimentary.
This year, I think one of the themes of this year is silly.
Yes, and I love a silly movie. I'm very unserious. So if you're an unserious movie, right up my alley.
I We talked about this one after I was back from Telluride. I know you obviously thought this like similarly of this. I was like, oh, this is the presumed innocent of award season movies to me. It is like prestige TV movie.
Yeah, but it's not like as obvious in its unseriousness as Presume Innocent is.
I think now I was wondering this. I think now that it's been out, like when I saw it at Telluride, it was such a slow burn where you're watching it, and I was like, I like literally laughed out loud almost immediately. I think there's like the shot of Rafe, and the score is like hammering in,
I
right?
was laughing when the score started when it
It's
opened.
like really clever and entertaining. I just think it's like so entertaining, and it's just like ha, like that kind of thing. Like, I can't believe this. And it was a very slow like enjoyment of the movie at Telluride. And then at the end of the movie, which it ends with, we're not going to spoil it out here, but it ends with a crazy ending, and people were like
I
very
mean, if
amused
you
by
read
that.
the book, then you know what it is.
Yes. So yeah, it's very unserious in a good way. And it has continued to play incredibly well since Telluride. It won this week, tied with September 5 for the Middleburg Film Festival Audience Award, which is like feels like a kind of like old school Oscar audience maybe there. Like, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's continuing to play really well for festivals and reviews and audiences.
Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, it's a very dad movie. And we've talked about like how it feels like it's the type of film that will get a bunch of nominations, probably not win any, but I think it could win like adapted screenplay. That category is really open. Um, and it deserves to win for score, but I don't think it'll win for score legitimately. And yeah, I think it's hard to dislike the movie, and I feel like if you do dislike it, it's not really anything the movie did because the movie is what it is, and I feel like it's just having different expectations of the movie.
I have I haven't like I was thinking of this. So like I think there's a world where this gets like 10 nominations.
It's very pretty.
But I also don't have it in a lot of places. I think I have it in my mind. I'm like I think it's like just on the cusp. But if you go through like the below the line categories before we get to like the top line stuff, Cinematography, I don't have it in, but if it got in, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a very beautiful film to look at.
It's in sixth in the odds. I almost want to put it in, but I don't know who I would drop. Right now, I have the Brutalist, Dune, Maria, Amelia Perez, and Nickel Boys. I might drop it for one of the bottom ones there. Costume design, again, don't have it in, but I think it's six, seven, eight, nine. It's ninth in the odds. I think it could be higher, but great robes, beautiful robes.
Hmm.
Editing for a thriller, again, I don't have it in, but it's fifth in the odds. Maybe I should put it. I'm putting it in. I'm putting it in.
I have
Sorry.
it in editing.
All right, I'm putting it in for editing. Uh, Makeup and hair, not really. Production design absolutely should be in the conversation. I have it six. It's at six in the odds. I don't have it in, but I kind of might want to put it in.
I have it in.
What do you have not in? You don't have Wicked in.
No, I have Wicket. I
Oh,
don't have Blitz, remember?
oh, right. Should I go against Adam Stockhausen, who I once interviewed many years ago?
You didn't
For
interview him for Blitz.
I didn't interview for Blitz, so I guess I'll take him out and put Conclave in. Great marble, beautiful marble. And obviously best score. I have it in second, but it's first in the odds. So that's like a lot of, and then I also have it in for sound because I thought the sound was like
Now,
remarkable. But
yeah, there's explosions.
now I wonder, I saw that again, that might be where you see it because I saw it at Telluride, the venue where at Telluride, the sound is like the best. But I was like, I wonder if at home it'll be the same. But like, I was like, really, like just a lot of like, even a door locking, it's like, oh man, it's very sound forward, even though
And
it's
then and
about
then just like
picking a
the
post.
tension when they're voting,
Yeah,
all the voting scenes.
a lot of like writing,
Yes.
noise of pen on paper.
Yes.
So yeah, could get like several below the line nominations. Um, I think and obviously Best Picture, and I think there's another world where if this is 20 years ago, this is like the Best Picture front runner. But I don't know if it's obviously not now because the Academy's a lot different.
Yeah. Is Rafe still in first in Best Actor?
He's still in first in Best Actor. So why don't we start there? Great performance.
Yes.
Don't
Obviously
have him
it's
in
number
first though.
one. Overdue.
Oh, he's overdue, but also like he has been nominated before, which I think people forget.
Yes.
Which I
Yes.
hate when they're like he's
It's just
overdue.
people want him to win. He's not overdue for a nomination. People want
Yeah.
him to be a winner.
And I think people are still mad, at least I am, that he was not nominated for like Grand Budapest, which is his best performance to me. This is not as good as to me as Grand Budapest, but he's still very good in it.
Yeah, like it's a totally rock solid performance. Um, but just like no shade, just I don't know how you can compete against Adrian Brody in The Brutalist. I mean, your mileage may vary if you've seen both. But
I would agree. I also think that he doesn't have the narrative is not as strong as even like Coleman Domingo to me.
I don't even think like that narrative matters. I think people want it to matter, so they're trying to gaslight themselves and everyone else into thinking it matters,
Okay.
you know?
Um, but yeah, I mean I think he's of I mean, we would say the three of them, the top
They're
three in
in.
the odds are Ray
They're
Fiennes,
in.
Adrian Brody, and Coleman Domingo. That is very, very safe for a nomination at this point. So it would be like, frankly, absolutely shocked. I couldn't even imagine a world where he's not nominated for this movie, Ray
Yes.
Fiennes. And he's win competitive, but like you said, I don't know how anybody could beat Adrian Brody. And I think once we start getting to televised awards and stuff, I think you'll see steamrolling potential there.
Yeah, we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago about how Adrian could sweep everything, really.
Hmm. It's next best to me, and I think to you, potential for an acting nomination is Isabella Rossellini, who is one, two, three, four, five, sixth in the odds still. But to me, like, should be right up there. I don't think she's gonna win because I feel like Zoe Saldana with the bigger performance is like more of a front runner. But I'm like very confident in Isabella Rossellini getting in for this.
It's also just a very, 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 very open category. I do feel like if you're not predicting her or maybe even anti-dicting her, it's because of her limited screen time in the film. But she does have her one powerhouse scene, and obviously it's just dining out on that. Like that's gonna be the clip that's gonna be played everywhere if she gets in everywhere, you know?
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
it's the
Like she
only
has
clip.
nothing else.
But that one power, you
He's
know
just
what?
lurking in the
Frankly,
background throughout the rest of the
uh,
movie.
the one powerhouse scene completely enough to get her in.
Yeah, and it's
It
supporting, you
it
know.
has played like gangbusters, and it's just anecdotally. Like I know for a fact it has screenings. It continues to be like the
Yes.
moment people love in the film.
So, my friend whose dad very excited to see it this
Yeah,
weekend.
hell yeah,
His wife also wants to see it because she's a huge Isabella Rossellini stan.
yeah.
And like I'm just like, how many of those are also in the academy in the industry, you know? She's a Nepo baby, Hollywood
A
royalty, never been
beloved,
nominated.
yeah,
She's campaigning, your
yeah.
fave.
She's absolutely campaigning. I was just gonna say, did a big Vanity Fair thing recently. She's embracing this moment, and I feel like she's to me, it's like not even a question. I know she's six in the odds, but I'm like, to me, it's not even a question that she should be like top four, basically. I think, but
But my feeling is also that, like, sure, she might not get in, but if Conclave is truly a top five film, like maybe even top four, top three, and people are, or voters still don't know how to fill out this category, I think she could just be carried by the love for the film. It's like kind of similar to America Ferrera last
yes,
year, you
I
know?
think people like. I think it is like American Ferrera. There's a lot of American Ferreras this year, so I think Selena Gomez is like that too. But I think that is a good comp. I think people maybe were like, oh, like because she's not in it, if they're anti-dicting her, it's like Anna Paquin in Irishman. But again, Anna Paquin in Irishman had nothing to do and like didn't have her big moment scene, and Isabella Rossellini does have the scene. So like I think that's the
Yes.
difference to me.
She says more than two words.
Um, she's the best. I think she and Rafe will get in. I do not think any of the very, very good supporting actors, however, will make the cut because
You
I
know, the Tooch campaigning.
he is campaigning, and if he got in, and he's expected to get in according to the odds, he's fifth in the odds still. Would not be surprised. I just feel like to me, in the end, I think it's going to be too diffuse. I just think if you walk out of that movie, you talk to five people who see it, they might have a different favorite supporting actor. All of them might have a different person.
It's kind of like what plagues Honora too.
Yes.
And I
Um,
think that you could say the difference is that the guys in Honora have a lot to do, and it's the opposite in Conclave, where you want more of John Lithgow and Stanley Tucci, and I mean even Carlo Dietz, you know?
yes. I mean, to me, like we talked about this, I think after you saw it. I mean, the people who popped the most for me were like Sergio Castellitto and
Yeah,
Lucian
Tedesco.
Masamada.
Yeah. Um, but I don't think they have much of a shot
No.
here. I do think like if one of them, one of the Conclave men get in, it would be Tooch.
Yes.
So,
I
but yeah,
I agree with that. He's also great
yeah.
in the film. And I guess no spoilers because I don't want to spoil it. But I think if you watch the trailer, you're maybe thinking he's a bit more Machiavellian, a bit more Denzel in Gladiator II. But in the movie, in practice, he's actually not. And I was like, I kind of wished he was more like mustache twirling, I guess.
I I just kind of feel like they're all lacking a bigger moment. Like they're all just very consistently good, which may be enough, you know, if they don't know how to fill out like that last spot that we're all assuming is empty.
So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do there because I had Jeremy Strong, but I took him out. I've since taken him out because
Wow. How could
well,
you do this to the eldest boy?
I took out Seb, which I know you were mad at for
And I
Apprentice.
told you not to.
But I had Timmy for 100 to 1. We'll talk about this in a minute when we get to Gladiator too. Then once I took Zeb out, I was like, I'm going to take Jeremy out, even though I think he's obviously fantastic in the movie. That movie is like flatlined, and again, I don't know if it matters, but it does. The I feel like the take of that movie is it's the movie nobody wanted and then nobody saw, and then we still don't know how the election will play out in terms of like the discourse for the around the movie. So I was like, I'll take Jeremy out, and I almost put Tucci in, but I was like, I can't. I don't think he's like strong enough over any of the other people in the movie. So I put Peter Sarsgaard in for September 5 because like you were saying too with
You're back.
Honora, who I would love to put any of those guys in. I just don't know how you pick one of those guys. And it's very possible that like Yura Borisov could coattail, and obviously as the movie has been more seen, slightly more seen, people are becoming hip to him being like the heart and soul of the movie. But I just think like Sarsgaard could get in for September 5, especially if it continues to like play really well. So that was why I took out. That's why I didn't put in Tucci, I guess.
I mean, I still have Yura
You
in there
should.
at
He's
100 to
great.
1.
I mean, you can't take him out then.
You know.
Tucci though would be cool. It would be great. I love Stanley Tucci. So if he got nominated, I'd be like, hell yeah. And like you said, speaking of like Isabella Rossellini, or like moments ago, very wide open category. I think supporting actor is too. And if the movie's top 5 movie, then maybe he just gets in because people are filling out the slots and they'd rather go with him than somebody who's not in a movie they really love.
I mean, like 3 months ago, the everyone was picking this for 4 nominations, acting nominations,
Yes,
you know,
double nomination.
double conclave here.
Um, so that's that. So acting, like we said, an adapted screenplay, I think it could win, but at least get
Yeah.
nominated. Here's the and picture. So here's the one I'm like torn on is director Joyce. Edward Berger missed for All Quiet.
It was also very late breaking though when it popped. When we all realized that it was popping.
Maybe if it was a little earlier, he gets in.
He did win BAFTA, remember?
Comes back with this movie that is like meat and potatoes Academy movie from 20 years ago, and does a really nice job with it. It's just like a totally down the middle. I feel like directing like mainstream director stuff, give him a Bond movie kind of shit, right? Like just like this guy can handle a big movie with like great crafts, an adult drama, great cast, and blah blah blah. Um, I don't have him in for director though. I can't figure out whether I should put him in or not. I've seen him as high as 1. I think people have him winning. He's fifth in the odds for us.
I mean, that could also just be like they think he's safe for a nomination.
Okay, sure. But either way, he's fifth in the odds. I don't have him in. Some people I've seen rank him as high as 1. Uh he's campaigning like hell. Should I have him in? Do I have a mistake here? I don't know. I don't know what to think about this.
I don't know. I think the only people who are remotely safe that you can say on October 23rd are Brady Corbet and Sean Baker.
Yes. They're top 2 in the odds.
I mean, I have Ed in. I don't know. Like I don't think he's like yeah, the movie is middlebrow and then the directing branch don't usually go for middlebrow type of directors, but I don't know if he's even perceived that way as one, you know?
Right. I don't know what he's perceived as.
So
So, like let's look through the last like so last year this year we obviously it was Justine Triet, Scorsese, Lanthimos, Glazer, and Nolan, right?
great lineup.
Spielberg, Oslin, Martin McDonagh, Todd Field, and the Daniels.
Mhm.
None of these guys sound like Berger to me so far with the type of film that he has. Spielberg, Hamaguchi, Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, PTA, and Campion. Finterberg, Fincher, Fennel, Lee Isaac Chung, and Chloe Zhao. Weird year.
And that was
Tarant-
when we knew Aaron Sorkin was not getting in.
Correct. Tarantino, Scorsese, Todd Phillips, Mendes, and Bong Joon-ho. Like, I can't find a movie or a director going back here, continuing to go back, that I would say this is like this movie with Berger. Maybe if maybe Belfast. I like literally like, what is like I
I mean,
don't
yeah,
know.
Belfast is kind of like in that same zip code. Um,
Yes.
I think it's like if they love it as much as they loved Belfast, which ended up winning an Oscar and getting Judi Dench in over Katrina Balfe, she got denched. Um, like he could get in,
I
you know, like
absolutely
I think
get
that's
it.
the most similar of the last couple years. It's just totally down the middle type of film.
The other one I keep going at like Spotlight, Tom McCarthy, but that was the best picture front runner.
That that's
Or
I think it's also a more serious movie.
yes. I'm going back. Any of these Alexander Payne one, none of these like David O. Russell for The Fighter. You know what I mean? Like
They're just in the tank for DOR anyway, which you know, I'm like
I guess that you can go all the way back. This is how about this one? This actually makes sense to me. Ron Howard for Frost Nixon in 2008.
we're going back to The Field of Five and Best Picture.
Like that is what this feels like. No, this is not a knock. You know, I love Ronnie Howard, but I'm just like, this is the kind of this is like a Ron Howard. Conclave feels like a Ron Howard kind of movie to me. So,
Yeah, he could have directed it.
so I don't know like what the branch, how the branch will the branch look at Edward Berger as like a Nolan, junior Nolan type because of like All Quiet and like the craft, the immense craft on display in like Conclave with this big ensemble, or will they look at it like Ron Howard and not take him as seriously based on like what they've nominated over the last decade? So I'm betting on the latter, but I mean, if it was the former, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess. That's why I don't have him in.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get a lot of number ones.
It feels like DGA and out for him to
Yeah, he could
me.
totally just be like DGA and not Oscar. It's hard, it's so hard to say at this point because I like people just love to be able to like say definitively 5 months out like this is gonna be it.
Yes.
But like we just don't have enough data at this point, so it's all guesswork anyway. But right now we just don't have enough information. But as we get along, he might start racking up nominations, and it's like, oh, he is actually nomination viable here, more so than we
Yes.
thought 8 weeks ago.
Yeah. Like that's exactly right. Because I'm like, I'm using informed speculation
Yeah,
on
we're
why I
using
think.
the data we have from past years.
But if he gets in like all these places, then all of a sudden I'll obviously have him in. Like he could get in. I mean, Globe. He could be like again not industry, but Globes. He could be in BAFTA and DGA, and I guess it's possible he could miss in that case too. But like I'd be more confident in him getting in if he like hits all the precursors.
Yeah, and I don't know if he has like enough of a resume that they're aware of to hold anything against him. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true too. It's tricky too. This race is tricky. This director race is not easy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I could see him getting it. Like I don't have him or Denis Villeneuve in. I feel like they're both on the outs now. But I could easily see putting them both in the end. Um, and then Best Picture. It is I feel like it's definitely getting in for Best Picture. It's fourth in the odds. I think it could be a top five movie, but boy, I don't know if it would win.
I have not talked to anyone who thinks it's gonna win.
No,
Like it's in.
it's
But
in and no win with like 7 to 9 nominations. Would you say?
yeah, and it could win like adapted screenplay.
Let me see right now what I have it down for. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. And I might be conservative because I don't have it in a couple other places where it could, like costumes and cinematography and supporting actor. So it's in that 7 to 10 range, I think, for nominations to me.
Which sounds right.
Um, I'll be curious to see that. Again, we're not going to spoil the ending. If you haven't read the book and you want to spoil it yourself, go ahead and look at Wikipedia because it's right there. That's what I did. It's incredibly pulpy. As silly as the movie is, complimentary. The ending is somehow leaps and bounds ahead of where the
The
silliness
way the
was.
reveal happens, I was rolling.
It like clapping like a seal, Joyce, at the Telluride screening. Um, so I could see one of we've already seen. I think conservatives have attacked this movie for being anti-Catholic, and I could see progressives being mad at certain how certain things are handled. So I don't know if actually the discourse will sink it because I think it's going to be so balanced on both sides, maybe even tilted more towards like conservatives being mad at it. So I think the discourse will be fine. It'll be fine.
I also think it helps that it's adapted from a book,
Yes.
you know? So it's like it's not new. Like maybe you were unaware of the book until now, but it's not something that they created for the film, that it's brand new, the twist. I'll be interested to see like how it does box office wise, because it is such a bad movie. I could see it doing pretty well, honestly. Like just kind of legging out, you know?
I think it has to leg it out. I think it needs to be a slow burn. I think people over 50 will end up going to see it. But I do worry that this year we've seen, and in just recent years, all these movies come out and they kind of just crash into the shore and they're not doing as well as you want. And so, like, with Conclave, have, does it need to make like 30 million to be like,
No, it just kind of it needs to like basically kind of do what the substance is doing, just like holding
yeah, just
well
kind of
every
hold
week.
on. People like
Um,
it.
and I mean, it's also like frankly a vote of confidence that they moved up the release because it was originally supposed to open in limited on November 1st and then going wide on the 8th. And then they last month, they like right after it dropped at festivals, they moved it up wide, October 25th.
A, a great
So
decision too,
I think
because
that's
no,
also like a way to kind of get ahead of the discourse about the twist too. But it's like it's available to all of you.
also, like, nothing is coming out. I mean, like, I know we say this like all the time, but like, and it's not about box office, but like, you have Venom this weekend, obviously with Conclave. Venom's not an Oscar movie.
It's
Uh,
counter programming.
Next week there's nothing,
Next week
literally
it's a real
nothing wide.
pain.
I don't think
It's a real pain.
limited release,
Yeah.
right? And like here in limited release, remember here
Is it here?
and Juror number two, I guess too.
In like 50 theaters.
And then the following week is Heretic, which is a buzzy horror movie, and uh not much else to write home about. So I feel like they have like a really nice runway here. Here comes out the 15th wide. They have like a good runway
It's
until
also a
Gladiator
good
2.
movie to recommend over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think,
When
and
you
I
when
think like
you're
the
when you're
more
eating
it's,
turkey with the fam, it's like, you know what I just saw? Conclave. Also,
yep,
my friend's dad called it the Conclave, which is just perfect.
fantastic. Uh, Joyce, we have a few minutes left here. So why don't we go into our thoughts on Gladiator 2, which you saw Monday.
Best picture of the year.
People are going to take you seriously, but it fucking
No,
rules.
it's I feel like people don't know my tastes.
Uh, here's so we were there Monday at the AMC Lincoln Square with all the luminaries of film Twitter.
Oh yeah, Ice-T and Coco walked right in, sat like 3 rows in front of us. Rachel Zegler, Kit O'Connor, their day off from Romeo and Juliet, the
Just
row
the
in front of us.
Wendell Pierce.
Kenny Lonergan? Right?
A
Yeah. Because I
lot
was
of
like, I said to you, I was like, is that Kenny Lonergan?
lot of film pundits. Joyce, all of
Obviously. I
them.
mean, it came with a Q&A attached.
Every pundit. So here's when I knew Gladiator 2 is going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. It opens up, it says Gladiator, and then the I splits into two Roman numerals. And I was like,
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
so I just call it Glad 2 Ader from now on. I was dying because okay, here's when it was officially announced and it was Gladiator Roman numeral 2. I was like, I understand it because obviously Roman numerals, but it'll be so much easier for everyone to just use the number 2 because that's what people are gonna type anyway,
For SEO, certainly.
Yeah. But then, I'm here to say I was wrong. The opening minute of the movie that happened. And I was like, I'm sorry, Ridley Scott. I see the vision now, and I'm here for it.
Uh, the movies I thought of during it: Top Gun Maverick right away, Force Awakens, the original Gladiator, absolutely fucking rules. It's
I
so
thought of Lord of the Rings, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, and Extraction.
I walked out of the movie. I was like, I think this could make $1 billion. I think it's going to be a massive hit. I absolutely loved it. It's so entertaining.
I was entertained. We
I was
were
entertained.
the we were like the only people laughing.
I don't know that we were definitely in our little group where, but then
Yeah.
everybody after it was like super into it. But I don't know if you could really hear as well in that theater. But man, is it
I
fun?
mean, it's a big theater.
It's so fun. It's just like a lot of fun. A lot of
Yeah.
it's like I was thinking back, the original Gladiator I rewatched recently, and it is very serious. It is a very serious drama with some cool action. And Russell Crowe is taking that shit as serious as anybody's ever taken anything in their life. And it's a great movie star performance. And I'm not saying like Paul Mescal is not taking it seriously. And actually, I thought he was so good that I put him in my best actor field because I just loved him in the movie. But like having Denzel in this movie doing whatever the fuck he wants, having the time of his life. It makes it so much fun to watch. And every scene he's in, and he's in it. I was wrong. I'll readily say I was wrong about this. When the trailer came out, a lot of people, I think, myself included, were like, that's every scene Denzel is in. And he's in it for like 20 minutes and he's out. And he is in it way more than I expected. And he is like a main character, or at least the secondary lead to Paul. And I was just like, this is great. He is having so much fun. It's a great performance. He kind of makes the whole movie because without him in it, I don't even know how you have the movie without him in it, frankly.
He's hilarious. I would say they all understood the assignment, but he really understood the assignment. And it is some of the greatest robe acting I've ever seen in my entire life. Like,
Fantastic robes, great robes, beautiful robes.
yeah, like we need to talk to Janty Yates, the
Already
costume
requested
designer.
her, Joyce. And not, if you want to join me, you're more than welcome to.
I mean, listen, I talked to her last year for Napoleon, and also David Crossman, who also did the military costumes for Gladiator too. But she won for the first Gladiator.
Yes.
And obviously, you expect like the armor and everything, but I was like, the robes, man.
The
Like,
robes are fantastic. We're not going to talk. We obviously spent a lot of time talking about this movie in the weeks to come, so I'm not going to go heavy on plot. But I was like you were saying, I see the vision, and I think a lot of people were like discounting Gladiator because of Ridley's recent run and history with the Academy in general. And it's not, there's, I'm like, every day I have a different thought on Ridley Scott overall, where I'm like, some days I'm like, man, this guy's made some of my favorite movies. And then some days I'm like, are any of these movies actually really good? And now I'm like back to like, I think he's great. I think these movies are good because I was like, oh, like I guess for like House of Gucci and Last Duel, both of which I really liked, they were not as good as maybe people were hoping, but we both like Last Duel a lot. It was one of the funniest movies of the year.
I love Last Duel.
And
Yeah.
obviously, House of Gucci, just great fun.
So I feel like what he was striving for with Gucci and also Napoleon, which I liked.
I
I
did
liked it
not.
more than you did.
Did
I
not like
think
it.
he like finally achieved it with Glad 2 Ader.
Yes, I
So
thought that was exactly what it feels like. All these, so like his last run of movies, Napoleon, which I did not love, Nap being the operative word, House of Gucci and Last Duel in 21, great twofer. All the Money in the World, pass. But Alien Covenant, great.
Christopher Plummer.
Christopher Plummer, sure, but Alien Covenant, great. I think that's like one of the great Alien movies. It's so nihilistic. The Martian, people really like.
I like The
Uh,
Martian.
Good, solid movie. Exodus, Gods and Kings, no thanks. Counselor is really great. Prometheus, I actually think is really great too. Robin Hood, Bodies of Lies, not great. American Gangster rules. So you go back through these movies and it's like, okay, like he's had some good movies, but I think exactly what you're saying. This is the great mix of like what's happening in Napoleon, what's happening in like House of Gucci, and The Last Duel. It actually feels like all three of those movies. He took the best things of those three movies and then rammed them together
I
to
mean,
make
there was a
this.
point in the last act where I was like, this is just setting up for Napoleon. And then he completely undercuts it.
Yes,
It's like
it's like
Napoleon Redu, and then it's like, no.
like we talk about this a lot. I was never bored 1 second of this movie.
No, I wanted to watch it again. It's 2.5 hours. It's shorter than the first one. And then because my friend and I, who I brought as my plus one, we were talking about like how we were talking about this like days before, like how we haven't seen the first one in a really long time. And like we've liked it, we just haven't watched it. And then I'm also not one of those people who are like, oh, I gotta watch the first one before I see the second one, you know? But then after that screening on Monday, I was like, I want to watch the first one again. So we're gonna watch it this weekend.
I my thought of this again, recency bias, obviously, and I'm not sure if this is better or worse. I remember I really like first one I saw. We would talk about this probably on Oscars playback. Took the Ram van in Fordham University to fucking AMC Lincoln Square, where I just saw Gladiator 2 this week. Opening weekend, we saw it. It was great. Loved it so much. One of like the classics of that era. Probably saw it a lot of times in like a 2 year period, and then never saw it again until like this year. And I watched it this year, and I was like, man, Russell Crowe is so good, and it was a little boring. I thought Oliver Reed was great, and like he comes in and shoots the movie up with like a lot of energy. The action scenes are cool. You have the great Russell like kind of doing everything, and Joaquin being terribly vexed and whatever.
The
And
best line.
this one, I was like, I actually think this might be slightly better, even though it's I think a different movie. It's way more. It's a bigger action movie than I think the first Gladiator. I'll be curious to see what you actually think of this when you
It's
rewatch
kind of
it.
like, how sequels just level up, not necessarily in like a better way, but in a bigger way. It's like what D2 did. more in D2 than like what we had in the Mighty Ducks. It's just kind of like completely absurd. There are sharks, there are rhinos in this
A lot of
Gladiator.
Ridley loves animals. That was
He loves
originally the
animals
plan.
according to Fred Hetchinger. I think that's gonna be his talking point this season.
Ridley
There's a
loves animals.
monkey, Dondas, a star.
There's a real monkey in it,
Yeah,
Dondas.
yeah, a
He's Fred
star.
Hetchinger's monkey.
Yes. And then
Fred,
there are feral monkeys that Paul fights.
those are I read this. They're hairless. I think they're hairless baboons. They have alopecia.
Wow.
And then there's
Tell
sharks.
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock's got material if he comes back to the Oscars. He's gonna make a fucking hairless baboon
When
joke.
they came out, I was like, what is this supposed to be?
Yeah, that's why they look like that. So Fred Hetchinger plays Emperor Caracalla, who's a real figure, and his twin brother or his brother is Joseph Quinn playing Emperor Gita or Geta, Gita, I would say.
They're just the two idiots, kind of like Joaquin times 100.
It's Joaquin doing "You think you're so great because you have boats" the whole
Yes.
movie. That was
Yes.
that was what
Which is
really I
which is the
imagine
best
he
line
was
of
like.
Napoleon.
I imagine that was he was like. Like, did you watch Napoleon, Fred and Joe? Do that line the entire time. It's a fantastic. They're great
And
together.
honestly, no notes.
Fantastic. So funny. Joseph Quinn's amazing. There's a part where he screams and it looks like remember in Jurassic Park when the thing with the fans like kills Newman? That's what he looks like. It's freaking best. Loved it so much.
Yeah, and then I was waiting for Fred to get his moment because Joe really dominates because he's like the alpha
Yes.
to
Yes.
Fred's beta. So like I know Fred's gonna have more to do. I was just waiting for it, and it happens.
It happens. I knew that it would too because remember Barry Keoghan was
Very.
supposed to play the Fred Hetchinger part, and you're right. In the first hour and a half or so, you're like, oh, they must have really redone this because this is not enough for Barry Keoghan, even at the time, to have been in this movie. But no, yeah, Fred is. I love Fred Hetchinger from White Lotus. I thought he was the best in that first season of White Lotus, so I was like super psyched for him in this.
Yeah, and then they also play really well off of Denzel, who he's the puppet master of the whole thing.
I, Denzel is phenomenal in this movie, and I was thinking that too. Like he's with all these young actors who obviously revere Denzel Washington, and they're all holding their own with him. He's not blowing them off the screen. It's like they all leveled up, including Paul Mescal, who I've never liked more in a movie. Uh, at all, but they all are like, oh shit, like I gotta really step up my game to be opposite Denzel, who's bringing like 100, who is just doing the most movie star shit, like absolutely on fire from the first second he's on screen. He is just dominating this movie and could have like it's just like they have to be at his level, and I was like, they're all
It's
great.
also great because I think on some level you could think he's just kind of phoning it in because he doesn't have to like train for any fight sequences or anything, like Paul and Pedro Pascal have to do. And the character also isn't as flashy and ostentatious as the twins, right? Because who are just unhinged.
Yes.
Like he's playing the long game here, his character, Macronus. So he only reveals so much that he needs to with certain people at certain times. Um, so he's just there, just like chilling in his robe with his goblet of wine. Like I was trying to decide like what was my favorite Denzel moment. I don't know if I could even pick one because so many of his scenes, it's just him screaming words. It's like horse,
The best.
pack.
The rings. He's got so many rings.
He requested more rings.
So uh So yeah, in terms of the movie, is this awards prospects, Joyce, as we hit almost an hour. I had it in for Best Picture already. I feel very vindicated by this. Nothing, and I know I was like, I'm in. I was like, I got it in for Best Picture. That's great. I put Ridley in right to the top. I just shot him right to the top.
You announced this while the credits were rolling.
Uh, I think the narrative or the mix the play is Marty for Departed, I guess. I don't know that they like Ridley Scott as much as they ever liked or respected Ridley Scott.
No.
Marty they never liked, but they certainly seemingly respected. And Ridley I don't know if they like or respect, but I think the play is Ridley doing this is like Marty for Departed, where it's just like not a year where there's a lot of strong contenders and you have this grand guy who has made some of the most successful movies ever just doing a fucking blast movie and like it's just a lot of fun and maybe he wins. I don't know. I think the challenge for him to me to win is to actually get nominated, whether the branch lets him in. But if they do nominate him, I actually think he could easily, not easily, but I think he could win with the whole Academy voting.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with him, because yeah, like you said, I like who knows like how much they like or respect him. Like
Right.
he missed for The Martian, which he just seems safe for, right? And
Hmm.
like that's also, I think most people agree that's one of his better movies of the past decade.
Yes.
Um, and what's so funny is that when the first Gladiator won, it was like everyone knew this was winning Best Picture, like it swept everything, but no one ever discussed him for Best Director because it was just like Ang Lee and double Steven Soderbergh.
Yes.
Like he was never even in a discussion for Best Director.
No.
It was just accepted this was gonna split.
Yes.
So I don't know if like I think a lot of things have to go right for one for him to get in the first place. I think that's the hardest part for him to get in. And then I don't know if it's gonna be like he's gonna win Best Director and the movie's not gonna win Best
I
Picture. Like it's
I
gonna split the other way.
yes, I kind of think yes, I do. I mean, like you said, Brady Corbet could easily win Best Director. I think Sean Baker is competitive, but I would be very surprised, honestly, if he won. But yeah, I think Ridley, if he gets in, I think Ridley's like top two to me. I don't know. I have him in. I just put him right to the top because I was like, fuck it. He's great.
Yeah, I
The
don't know.
movie's
I mean, he
great.
could just easily be like the blockbuster pick because I have Denis right now, but he could. I mean, I don't know if both of them can get in, but
I
he
took Denny out.
be the blockbuster
Yeah, I took
spot
Denny out because I
for
was like, no,
like
really.
yeah, and I think so. What's interesting about the so far because social reactions were encouraged. Paramount was really excited
This
about
is
social
we're
reactions.
social reacting, Joyce.
Yeah. Um. So this screened in LA on Friday. They saw it first, and most of the reactions were positive, like lean positive, but there were still kind of you could tell like people were like hedging. There was some like hesitation. I know, and I understand some of the criticisms, like the script is not terribly strong, but it's kind of it's like a legacy sequel script,
Yeah, it's like
you
Force
know?
Awakens. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could definitely poke holes in it.
Hmm.
But you can also poke holes in the Amelia Perez script.
Hmm.
So yeah, and it's like that, but I think it like leans positive. So I think people are I think people also don't know what to do with it because it's like I enjoyed it, it was fun, but is it actually gonna break through? I think there's definitely room for another blockbuster in the top 10. Like we're having issues filling out the top 10. And I think it could really hit and be a populist pick. And I think we are kind of missing that movie this year where it's just kind of like a four quadrant film, right? That people want to see, are excited to see, and you're just entertained, right? And I think there's kind of like an appetite for that, like in the public and maybe in the industry too.
I
Maybe
I
like there's like nostalgia for the first one for some of these voters who were around back
hmm
then too. What's funny is also like my friend was telling me she was talking to her coworker about this and they weren't even aware they made a second Gladiator,
wow.
you know?
A coworker in the industry.
Ish,
Okay.
like
I
peripherally.
I got it. I think I have Wicked and I've moved Wicked in because I moved Blitz out. I think that this race, I think what you said there is very, and I have had I've been bullish on Gladiator since we did these picks. I think in March.
Yeah, like
Um,
I already had Gladiator in,
I
so
just think you're right in on like these are like there is a we have seen these kind of big movies that explode out in the public. If Gladiator flops, I think it's a different story, but I would be so surprised if it actually flopped. And I actually think it'll do better than people even think. It because of Denzel and because of like you were saying, there is like a lot of affection for the first one. So I don't know. I think it is safe. I think Ridley could get in. And like I said, I put Paul in for actor, which is also feels like a category, like we said, where there are three guys who are very, very certain to be nominated. We all have Timothy Chalamet penciled in there for a movie no one has really seen. And then the fifth slot is Daniel Craig for a movie that is very polarizing, and Sebastian Stan playing
they
Trump.
haven't
Or
even released the trailer for Queer, and it's coming out before The Brutalist.
seems like a data point that you would want to pay attention to. But I put Paul in because man, he is just great in it. I thought it was like a great movie star performance. Completely holds his own with Denzel by the physicality, and he's like really he just seems like he's having like
Yeah,
fun.
he's really good. I've also never been like a Paul person.
Yeah,
Like he's like I respect him. Like he's a great actor, but I'm just like I maybe it's like a generation thing. Like he's like the heartthrob for Gen Z, so it's like not for me. But
right.
like I'm like he's a good looking guy, great actor. But like this is yeah a movie star performance, and I'm
And
like I get it. So,
And I
but
think
I don't
he
know if it'll get if it's like a passion pick. It's funny because it's like, when he got in for After Sun, that's definitely obviously like a passion pick. And he got in over who, we were like whose name we were floating around, Tom Cruise, for a legacy sequel. So like now he's in the legacy sequel position and it's not really like,
passion.
yeah. And like obviously Russell won, which it's a great win, but I don't know if I'm not saying Paul would win, and because I don't think he would beat Adrian anyway, but it's different times. And I also think I don't know what the critical reception will be because reviews are still embargoed. It's obviously not gonna get a ton of like masterpiece raves or anything. I think it'll be mostly positive, but kind of like mixed.
I
I
think
think there are definitely people who are disappointed in it, but I feel like people forget that the first one, it wasn't like that had tremendous critical acclaim either. It was just a summer blockbuster. And then it just blew up and was a movie that everyone really liked watching and enjoyed, you know.
on Rotten Tomatoes, the original Gladiator has 80%. I would
I
say
mean, like to
that
be fair, again, a different time and different film
critics.
criticism era.
I my gut is like 75. I think it'll be like positive. I don't like you said, I think it's like there won't be masterpiece raves. Obviously, I'm gonna go like 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but like uh I think it'll be like very solid, like 6, 7, 8 out of 10s kind of thing. That would be my guess.
Yeah. So, but I think because the first one won Best Picture, I think there's this sort of like elevated nostalgia for it. Like you think it's more
Right.
prestigious than it is.
And then lastly, but not because it's Denzel. I put Denzel in. I went against our boy, Roman, and I put Denzel in first. I just feel like it might, based on how much fun he's having and how he really does just absolutely carry this whole movie. And I think it's a Best Picture nominee. I think A Real Pain could be a Best Picture nominee too, like we've discussed. I just have a hard time believing that Denzel won't like. Don't you think he has the potential to just like kind of like really steamroll, especially once the televised awards are happening?
I think he can do that if no one else picks up steam. Like I can actually see him doing really well with like regional critics and then just tanking with televised, you know,
Interesting.
because it's like, but I can also see the other way, but I don't know if because it like with the Globes, I think you might think like that's such a Globes thing to do to give it to Denzel, but they're actually it's a new Globes now. Like, so I don't know if they would actually do that for like the easy lay of giving Denzel another Globe. I mean, who knows if he's even gonna hit BAFTA because they've never nominated him.
So that would be really that we'll have to see. I think if he gets in a BAFTA, it would make me feel like he's absolutely winning. Um, I think he could. I think he'll win SAG, like just straight up. I think he wins SAG,
Like, I can see him winning SAG and not winning the Oscar again, just like with
and that
Fences.
could happen. And it depends. Like, is Kieran like more like Casey and like undeniable? Uh, maybe. But I also could see a world where Denzel wins Golden Globe, SAG, and BAFTA even if he gets in a BAFTA.
There was only like one shot of Guy Pearce in the Brutalist trailer, right?
I think Guy could win BAFTA maybe more even than any of these other guys. I guess we'll see. But I put Denzel at one. I just think like that is like undeniable movie star shit, the likes of which we
You
haven't
were,
seen.
again, when the credits were rolling, you were announcing all the changes you were about to make.
We sat next to each other, so it wasn't like I was just
Go
standing
with
there
God.
pontificating. Uh, just a great time at the movies. We're gonna talk about Gladiator so much more. It comes out November 22nd. All right, Joyce, we're gonna wrap up here. We'll be back tomorrow with a mailbag episode. A lot of emails. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. And if we don't get to them tomorrow, we'll definitely get to it next week. And I'm sure we'll have people talking about Gladiator in the mailbag even this week because they knew we were seeing it.
Are you not entertained?
All right, bye.